Hi, it's Anne. I hope it's good weather where you are today. It's a little windy here. You might hear the wind. You know, I've been thinking today about a question that a student of mine asked me recently. She said, I wake up every morning filled with anxiety and dread. What do I do with those feelings? And I can so relate. Early on in this crisis, I woke up like that too. Uncertainty about what's going to happen is such a trigger for feelings of anxiety. I felt like that right around the middle of March. My ordinary life got thrown into a blender. And not just me, but pretty much everyone in the world got thrown into uncertainty. So yes, that week, I woke up with a cloud of dread hanging over me, and it felt awful. Well, we can say, no wonder, yes, of course, sure, that makes sense. But then what? As my student asked, what do we do with those feelings? And I have to admit that after all these years learning and teaching about feelings, my first reaction was to try to ignore it, shake it off, pretend it wasn't there. Hey, dread? What dread? I don't see any dread. Do you see any dread? Well, that was the way of handling feelings that I grew up with. All around me as a child, I saw people who pretended they didn't have any painful feelings. My dad pretended he wasn't depressed, and my mom pretended she wasn't worried about my dad. And sometimes my dad got so depressed that he took it out on me with sarcastic verbal abuse. I felt the results of his feelings, but we never talked about his feelings. So my feelings of confusion and anxiety, I realize now, lived in a no man's land inside me where they never fully took shape because there was no place to bring them and no vocabulary to talk about them. And in the years since then, I've learned so much about feelings. I've learned that our feelings make sense. They have real reasons. They're signals that something needs attending to. Feelings call to us for attention. That doesn't mean we have to express them to other people or do any particular thing with our feelings, but we do need to attend to them, to listen to them in ourselves, or they get stuck. And on that day, the day I woke up with a cloud of dread hanging over me, I have to admit, my first reaction was to not fully take in that it was there. I got in the shower, the cloud of dread followed me in, and I was doing my best to ignore it. Nothing going on here. But later that day, I was going to be doing my first free webinar on support for stressful times in response to the crisis. I was going to be telling other people what a good idea it is to pause and feel what we feel, whatever it is. And as I thought about that, I realized, oh, that starts with me right now. What am I feeling? And that's when the word dread came into my mind. Up until then, I'd felt it, but I hadn't named it. Now, here's a funny thing. Dread is a pretty awful feeling, but naming it brought a sense of relief. It didn't go away, it was still there, but somehow it was more okay that it was there. And I stood there in my bathroom with my hairbrush in my hand, and I said to the feeling of dread, hello. Well, this is the moment that makes all the difference. I was no longer ignoring it. I could have started arguing with it, dismissing it, explaining it away, but I didn't. I just said hello with interested curiosity. I wonder what it is that feels so dreadful right now. And there's a crossroads right there. I could have said, I already know. It's obvious. There's a pandemic. Of course I'm feeling dread. We just have to get through it. And instead, I was curious and interested in what in particular was bringing this feeling of dread right now. That's what I mean by respecting that our feelings have reasons. This feeling has a reason, and it knows the reason. And it can tell me if I'm patient and curious. So after a moment, I got it. It was the feeling that something unknown and awful was hanging over us, unpredictable and uncontrollable, a surge, a peak of infections. That's it. And I acknowledged it. I said to the feeling, I get it. That's what the dread is about. I hear you. And the feeling relaxed. You know that feeling you get when you tell a good friend your troubles and they hear you so you're not alone with it anymore? That's how it felt. It's not so bad. It's a trouble shared. I'm not alone anymore. Right there in front of the bathroom mirror. So, here's my tip for you today. No matter how bad you're feeling, anxiety, anger, grief, whatever it is, when you hear it, it's not so bad. Your feelings make sense. They're here for a reason. And maybe your feelings do lead to action. Maybe you'll stand up with others and make your voice heard. And it'll be easier to do that if you don't dismiss and disrespect your own feelings. After all, respect starts inside us and radiates out from here. Do you want to have more of my tips for calm in the midst of stress? There's a link below this video for my free e-course, Get Bigger Than What's Bugging You. In 5 simple lessons, you're well on your way to responding differently to the triggers of life. And here's to you having a more peaceful and empowered life.